Spectre Vision Radio.
I never felt comfortable in my own skin. I blame other people for that. Parents-wise, I was dealt a bad hand, and their negative influence, the exact detail of which feels so long ago at this point that I'm loath to give it shape, molded me into an anxious, awkward individual. Throughout my younger years, I felt like a forgotten island, isolated. It's hard to leave that kind of emotional remoteness behind. Hard not to make it something you carry so close to your chest that it's indistinguishable from your body. So I was already at one with that corrupting energy by the time I went out into the world. Interacting with people was hard for me, because all I'd see was what they had and I didn't. Confidence, tranquility, happiness. A kind of ease they felt, an ease toward being human. They made me feel like I wanted to be someone else, like I wished I could be them, and I resented them for it. It made me so bitter, so angry, that people could see that, sense it from me, and it meant they never liked me. The way I looked, the way I spoke, the way I carried myself, it was all caustic to people. No matter what, I was always judged negatively. Everything always ended up being my fault. If there was someone who needed to have the finger pointed at them, it was me who was blamed. If there was someone who needed to be the bad guy, the monster, it was me who became it. So I retreated further away from people and further into myself. It was a calculated process in some respects. I worked hard to create a business which I could conduct entirely electronically. No one ever dealt with me face to face, and for the first time in my life, by intentionally isolating myself, I prospered. Enough for me to buy myself a big old house in the middle of nowhere and spend all my time alone. I left my home as little as possible. By making the world smaller, it was as if I'd made other people not exist. And if they didn't exist, it meant they couldn't find me, couldn't judge me, couldn't be reflections of everything I didn't possess. Love, family, friendship, meaning, life. The night things began to change was the darkest I'd ever seen. Normally, with so little light pollution out where I lived, the sky was a star-studded, shimmering canvas. But that night it looked impossibly black. I checked for weather warnings, but the sources all said the same thing. I should have been staring up at a clear, peaceful sky. It was strange, but I busied myself with reading and making dinner, and by the time I was in bed, I'd forgotten about it almost entirely. I woke up in the dark. That wasn't uncommon. I'd often wake up and find it hard to fall back to sleep. This felt like such an occasion, so I reached for my phone. I was confused when I saw it said the time was 8:32 a.m. That wasn't possible. The sun would have already been up for a couple of hours, so I switched on the lamp on my nightstand and made my way over to the window. I couldn't see anything outside, literally. It was like the window had been painted over with black paint. Only opening it didn't make a difference. Unsettled, I made my way downstairs, turning on every light I passed. I opened the front door to the house and saw only pitch black. My front porch, the dirt road beyond it, the foliage that lined the way, it was all gone, replaced by a darkness which looked more like an absence of space than it did a color, like nothing existed beyond the threshold of my home. I checked every window, the back door too, but the view was the same. At first, I was utterly stupefied. I spent hours waiting to wake up, convinced I must be in the middle of some lucid nightmare. But I never did wake up. What was happening was very real. It seemed I was trapped, and the house suddenly felt like a tomb. I spiraled quickly into a panicked despair. I screamed and ran through the open door in a fit of madness, into the black. I saw nothing but darkness for a brief moment, before being catapulted backwards, back into the house. Jumping out of the windows had the same effect. No way out. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing my heart out. I cried until I could cry no more, and I must have passed out. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but when I came to, something had changed. The dark was no longer just outside the house. It was now a few feet beyond the threshold of the front door, eating into my home, disappearing pieces of it as it advanced. I watched as that darkness encroached, steadily gaining pace, like the rising tide of a pitch-black ocean of night, until I was cowering in a corner, the black mere inches from me. Then, it enveloped me completely. For a while, I wasn't sure if I was alive, or even what I was anymore. I existed as a jumbled mess of thoughts within pure darkness. A consciousness suspended in I don't know what. The only thing I was aware of was the pitch-black nothing. But it was as if I could move, or could feel myself moving, whatever my self was. I moved blindly through the dark. I don't know how long I existed like that, dislocated from everything. But then, I saw something within that seemingly endless void. I saw a sliver of light in the distance. I had to figure out how to intentionally move towards it. I wasn't even sure I had a body, but with enough concentration I was able to approach it. It felt like I was gliding, gradually getting closer. When I finally arrived at it, I realized it was a door, ever so slightly ajar, enough for a thin strip of light to be shining through. I tried to open it further. I couldn't see my hands, wasn't sure I had any, but I knew I was trying. Yet I wasn't strong enough. Instead, I aligned myself with the crack, so I could see through the small opening. And I saw a young boy sitting at a desk, books open in front of him, pen in hand, doing what looked like homework. I tried to speak, to call out to him for help, but there was no sense that I was capable of that. There was no sense I had a voice, a mouth even. I tried again to concentrate on opening the door. I used all my energy and it opened a little, just a couple of inches, but it moved. And as it did, the hinge creaked slightly and the boy looked over, right at me. His body stiffened as an expression somewhere between confusion and fear swept across his face. "Dad!" he called, a sense of urgency in his voice. A few seconds passed, and then a man entered the room. "You okay?" he asked. "I thought I saw something," the boy said, still looking in my direction. "What?" his father asked. The boy thought about it for a moment, looking a little unnerved. "It was like someone was standing on the other side of the door," he said. The boy's father came towards me. I tried to scream, "Help! Help!" But it was clear from the nonchalant expression on his face that he couldn't hear me. He looked right through me, turned to his son and said, "There's nothing there," and then closed the door completely. Everything went dark again, and I was back in that pitch-black void. Though I'd failed to alert them to my presence, I was emboldened. I'd found people. If I could figure out how to communicate, maybe someone could help me. But how? As I played the experience over and over again in my mind, was it even that anymore? Whatever it was, going over the encounter made me realize something. I was pretty sure the place I'd seen, that home, was in fact my house. The one that had been consumed by the darkness that had taken me with it. It looked different, new decoration, fresh paint, and new inhabitants who transformed it into their own space. But I was sure it was the same. How long had they been there? How long had I been in the void? I stayed still for what seemed like an eternity, too afraid to move in case I never saw that light again. My patience paid off, and finally I caught sight of it and rushed towards it, able to move a little quicker than last time. This time I was in the living room of the house, again staring at the boy, who this time was sitting on the couch, his head buried in a book. I felt frozen in place. It was like I was standing against the wall, or maybe even inside it somehow. But I had the sense that I was redeveloping a voice, and tried to call out to him. Help. The boy looked up from his book. Help. The boy looked around, as if trying to locate where the sound was coming from. I felt hope. I gave it another push. Help. Dad, the boy cried, his voice panicked. His father rushed into the room wearing an apron, as if he'd been caught in the middle of making dinner. I can hear whispering or something, the boy said, his voice a little unsteady. His father didn't look moved by his son's strange proclamation. Instead, he remarked how cold it was and went over to check the heater on the wall, moving closer to me. Help, I tried. The father stopped in his tracks, his entire body stiffened. Did you hear it? His son asked. His father nodded slowly. He was so close. Could I touch him? Get his attention that way? Alert him to my presence? I tried with all my energy to move forward, but instead of feeling myself move, it was as if I could feel the space around me shaking. I had the sense I was generating some kind of force, and a framed photograph of the family fell from the wall and crashed to the floor beside me. The boy and his father's eyes widened. A woman entered, wanting to know what the noise was. Mom, what's happening? The boy cried. His mother looked to his father for an explanation, but his gaze was fixed forward, almost directly at me, expression racked with deep concern. This is it, I thought. They're going to see me. But then, they were all getting further and further away, until I was back in the pitch black of the void. I was crestfallen. I felt as if I'd been so close to them, so close to getting them to hear my cries for help. But I tried to shift my perspective. The father too had now been alerted to my presence. I was getting closer. I just had to be patient, keep at it, keep trying to get to them. Until then, I'd have to bide my time in the void. When I next saw the light and moved towards it, I found myself inside the fireplace, staring out. I could see the mother on the couch, balled up in a comfortable position as she watched TV, but I found myself unable to act, unable to even try to communicate. All I could do was watch. I watched as her face changed, her brow furrowed. She grabbed a blanket that was folded up on the end of the couch and draped it over herself, but she shivered, still cold. After a few moments trying to get warm, she got up and walked in my direction, right over to the fireplace, not realizing I was within it. She crouched down to turn on the gas and light the fire, and then stepped back. And when she did, she screamed. She was looking right at me, and I knew she could somehow see me in the flames. Suddenly I felt able to move, and I tried with all my energy to lurch forward towards her. I spilled out of the fireplace, and the flames came with me, like they had given me some kind of shape. It was as if I was made of fire, down on the ground crawling after her as she backed away, face distorted in absolute terror. "Help me!" I tried to cry as I dragged myself forward, but I didn't know if she heard the strange, burning hiss that I emitted, because everything went dark, and I was once again back in the void. Time passed, whatever that meant. More time alone. More time to contemplate my situation and how I was going to get someone to help me out of it. And then something happened that had never happened within the void before. For the first time, I heard something. A faint voice, far, far away. I flowed towards it, noting how much quicker I was able to move in that space now, like I was getting used to it, or maybe even becoming one with it. It guided me back to the light, and this time when I approached it, I found myself hovering above the family as they sat at the dining room table. They were visibly shaken, ashen-faced, and nervous, but clearly unaware I was floating over them. They were joined by a woman dressed all in black, an assortment of items I couldn't quite make out on the table before her. "There is a presence in your home," she said. "Of that I have no doubt." The family all looked at one another, fearful and desperate. "And this thing means to harm you," she added. I tried to scream, "No, I need help," but no one could hear me. The woman dressed in black got to her feet and began to light candles, turning off the lamps and plunging the room into almost darkness, save for their flickering glow. "This entity will not rest until it has destroyed your family. It must be dealt with," she said matter-of-factly. "This summoning ritual is the only way. We must bring it closer than it has ever got to you before, in order to extinguish it." I hope she was right about the first part, that she did know some way to bring me out of the shadows and directly to them. Maybe it would be a real chance, a true opportunity to communicate, to tell them that all I wanted was help, for them to rescue me from the hell I'd found myself trapped in. The mother coughed nervously. "I thought I heard it say, 'Help me,'" she offered softly. I felt a sense of rising hope, but the woman dressed in black shook her head. "It's trying to trick you," she replied. "It wants you to believe it isn't a threat." "Why?" the father asked. The woman dressed in black thought about it a moment, as if debating what to tell them. "I'm not sure you want to know," she replied, and I saw it on all their faces, the family. They were all convinced I wanted to hurt them. After assuring them she knew exactly how to deal with me, the woman dressed in black arranged the candles and some strangely shaped trinkets into a crisscrossing pattern on the table and asked the family to join hands with her around it. She began to chant words in a language I didn't recognize, asking them to repeat the words after her. As their voices rose and I hovered above them, everything started to fade, and I feared I was heading back to the void. But this was different. Something told me to accept it, that I was going somewhere else. I opened my eyes for the first time since the whole nightmare started. Even having the sense that I had eyes was bizarre and miraculous all at once. I recognized my surroundings. I was in the house, upstairs in the master bedroom. I could hear their chanting from the dining room on the floor below, so I started to make my way out of the room, down the staircase. Then I was in the hallway, looking at them through the frame of the open dining room door. It was only when I approached it that I realized how off my perspective was, that my line of sight was above the door. I ducked my head and hunched my back so I'd fit through the threshold and stepped into the dining room. And in that moment, It was clear they could all finally see me. Every one of them scrambled back to get away from me, eyes wide with abject terror, yelling in fright at the top of their lungs. And I saw, behind them, was a mirror that spanned most of the width of the wall opposite me. And in it, I saw myself. Saw what they were seeing. An 8-foot abomination made of darkness and danger. A face that was no face at all. Eyes where there shouldn't be any. A mouth like a spiraling tunnel. A head that it wasn't even clear how or if it was connected to the disturbingly narrow, spindly body that jerked side to side like an unstable pillar of snakes as I blundered towards them. And they were screaming. The kind of screams a person never recovers from. The kind that changes them forever. Because of me. I tried to scream back as loud as I could. Tell them I meant them no harm. That I needed their help. To please do something to save me. But the noise that came out of my mouth, to say it was frightening doesn't even come close. They backed away, launching anything they could get their hands on at me, pleading with all they had for me to leave them alone. But I shambled after them, trying desperately again and again to make myself heard, make myself understood, to get them to help me. The woman dressed in black started shouting strange words I didn't recognize, as the others cowered in fear in the corner of the room. I tried to get closer, but all of a sudden it felt as if I were traveling backwards. Then they were all getting further and further away, until they were just a speck of light that soon too disappeared into the black. By the time I found the glimmer of light again and traveled towards it, the family who'd been living in my home were gone, as were all their things, all their possessions. And each subsequent time I saw that glowing orb, there was no one in the house, no one to try and communicate with, no one to ask for help, however I'd achieved that. After countless visits to that empty house, I decided to move away from it for good. I began to travel through the void. Direction isn't a concept that makes much sense here, but I ensured I kept moving, searching for anything. And I learned something. That dark space, it stretches further than you could possibly imagine. Most of it is pure absence. But eventually, I saw the faintest flicker of light again. And it brought me to another house, not the place I'd once called home, but an entirely different one, occupied by a different family. Trying to communicate with them yielded similar results, as did the next family I found, and the next one, and the next. I can't tell you how many I tried to get through to. But one thing I do know, every one of them was convinced, no matter how much I tried to communicate, tried to plead for help, that I was evil, malevolent, that I was something to fear, that I'm something that needs exterminating, banishing, destroying. That almost endless parade of judgment, of rejection, has changed me. Instead of wallowing in self-pity any longer, I've embraced their distress, their judgment. I've committed myself totally to being what they think I am. Trapped? No. Freed. Free to be the diabolical monster everyone has always taken me for. So, as I move through the ocean of night, I'm always on the hunt. And every time I see a light in the distance, no matter how small it is, or how far away it may seem, I always move towards it. Because I know what it means. It means life. People to terrify until they're irrevocably changed. Shells of their former selves. I creep into their homes, infiltrate their dreams, prey on their fear. I wear them down, and I empty them out, try to make them hollow, because I know one day I'll hollow someone out so much that there will be space inside them for me. And then I'll have what they have, know what it's like, and I'll finally feel comfortable in my own skin.